As you probably already know, Renee Good was shot and killed in Minneapolis, Minnesota by federal ICE agent Jonathan Ross on January 7th of this year. And of course, at breakneck speed, the political left and right are rushing to frame the narrative. The left are framing Renee as an innocent bystander who was murdered in cold blood. And the right, they are framing Renee as a person that was obstructing justice and that she was a domestic terrorist. And they said she was a domestic terrorist because she was trying to potentially ram Jonathan Ross. But I would urge people to actually take the side of Dom Homan on this, who is the border czar for the United States. He is saying, let the investigation take its course.
It'd be unprofessional to comment on what I think happened in that situation. Let the investigation play out and hold people accountable based on the investigation.
I think many members of the public are calling for the same thing, and so they're confused. Maybe you can help me understand how the Department of Homeland Security could conclude so swiftly that this is a, quote, act of domestic terrorism, that this woman, quote, weaponized her vehicle. By the very same standard you described, this investigation is just getting started.
That's the question for Homeland Security. I'm the border czar. Well, I can tell you what I've seen on my airplane ride here, looking at numerous videos, seeing numerous social media posts, statements from the Homeland Security, statements from Secretary Noem. I'll leave it at that.
But as a law enforcement officer,
what good is it to do right now to me prejudge the facts of what happened today without giving law enforcement professionals, whether it's the FBI or the local police there, give them time to look at all the videos, talk to all the witnesses, talk to the officers, and make an educated decision on what occurred today.
So as you can see from that clip, he's being completely reasonable. And to my next clip, Kristi Noem, the Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security, she is backing her agents and saying this was a domestic terrorist. But I don't think that was really the right thing for her to say right now from a political standpoint. But we can agree that the federal agents need to perform their jobs without being threatened bodily harm by those that are out on the street. And of course, this was inevitable. This probably was going to happen, as a lot of people are saying. So let's see this.
Domestic terrorism. What happened was our ICE officers were out in an enforcement action. They got stuck in the snow because of the adverse weather that is in Minneapolis. They were attempting to push out their vehicle, and a woman attacked them and those surrounding them and attempted to run them over and ram them with her vehicle. An officer of ours acted quickly and defensively shot to protect himself and the people around him. And my understanding is that she was hit and is deceased. We're continuing to gather more information, but this goes to show the assaults that our ICE officers and our law enforcement are under every single day. These vehicle rammings are domestic acts of terrorism. We're working with the Department of Justice to prosecute them as such. We will continue to protect our ICE officers.
So let's actually look at the original clip. The full clip shows the agent approaching Renee's vehicle, pulling at the handle of her door, telling her to get out. You have Jonathan Ross in the front of her vehicle, and it appears that she is not wanting to comply with getting out of her vehicle, so she veers in kind of a way that says icy conditions, so it's probably that she's either going to veer towards the agent or away from the agent. Maybe Jonathan Ross didn't know how that would happen. Shots are fired, and Renee proceeds to crash into the vehicles in front of her after she was shot. And here you have a protester actually trying to take a weapon away from an ICE agent right after this happened with Renee Good. And you know that would probably just escalate tensions even higher. Here's another clip of a reporter on scene who's actually trying to keep his distance away from the demonstrations because, as you can see here, they are burning American flags, they are shouting obscenities, and tensions at this point are extremely high.
Well, where you're at right now, and we're seeing the images on the screen, there's that flag you were talking about being burned here. What kind of things are they shouting, the crowd that's out there? I know they're obviously not happy ICE is there. They've been talking about that. What are they saying? You know, what's the energy like where you are right now?
So that's one reason why I'm not getting too close, so I can hear all of you, because it is loud out here. It's profanity. There's a lot of profanities against.
And the Minneapolis mayor, Jacob Frey, is stoking more tensions by putting fuel on the fire of an already tense situation between the Renee Good and ICE agent shooting.
To ICE, get the f*** out of Minneapolis. We do not want you here. Your stated reason for being in this city is to create some kind of safety, and you are doing exactly the opposite. People are being hurt. Families are being ripped apart. Long-term Minneapolis residents that have contributed so greatly to our city, to our culture, to our economy are being terrorized, and now somebody is dead.
And here are more clips of Jacob Fry stoking more tensions with his rhetoric, basically making ICE public enemy number one.
What they are doing is not to provide safety in America. What they are doing is causing chaos and distrust. They're ripping families apart. They're sowing chaos on our streets. And in this case, quite literally killing people.
And Governor Tim Walz of Minnesota, he's been dealing with a lot right now with the Somali daycare scandal, in which more than $8 billion was defrauded to the local and state government. And that's a lot of the reason why the ICE agents were here in the first place. So that heat has kind of been subsided a little bit with a focus on Renee Good.
I want Minnesotans to hear this from me. The desire to get out and protest and to speak up to this administration of how wrong this is, that is a patriotic duty at this point.
And on this next clip, Tim Walz is actually quite loose-lipped about the ICE agent's intentions, actually calling him a rogue agent, as if he went about his activities without any of the proper guidance on how to conduct himself.
My primary responsibility as governor is the protection of the people of Minnesota, and you can be assured whether it's the State Patrol or whether it's the National Guard, their deployment is there to protect Minnesotans from whatever it is. If it's an act of nature, if it's a global pandemic, or in this case, if it is a rogue federal agent.
And Tim Walz, furthermore, is trying to instill distrust in the Trump administration, citing that they would potentially invoke the Insurrection Act and potentially take over the FBI investigation into Renee Good to frame the narrative, as I said earlier in this video, in such a way that she would be shown as a domestic terrorist. And the left side of this political argument, they say they want the state, local government to see this investigation because, of course, it will be very similar to George Floyd, in which Jonathan Ross will be found most definitely guilty.
Don't take the bait. Do not take the bait. Do not allow them to deploy federal troops into here. Do not allow them to invoke the Insurrection Act. Do not allow them to declare martial law. Do not allow them to lie about the security and the decency of this state. And let's let this investigation play itself out.
And to no surprise, late-night host Jimmy Kimmel is taking the far-left position on this, stating that Trump is just trying to kill all protesters that are getting in the way of his ICE agenda.
What they're doing, they're trying out a new slogan. Donald J. Trump is going to kill you. It's pretty good, right? This maniac, he isn't just killing people overseas. An ICE agent today shot and killed an unarmed 37-year-old woman during an ICE operation in Minneapolis. They're there under the guise of protecting us.
And leave it to AOC to continue to raise tensions with regard to the public perception of ICE, stating they are a paramilitary organization that is trying to take away your freedoms, not just the immigrants anymore, but also for the civilian population.
Now seen and what we are seeing is that ICE is not just becoming an anti-immigrant force in this country, it is becoming an anti-civilian paramilitary organization. People are getting taken off of the streets for exercising their free speech rights.
But please keep in mind the ICE agents were conducting operations in Minneapolis, Minnesota for a very clear case of fraud and criminal activity. If the states were to have dealt with their criminal activity, the ICE agents wouldn't have had been there in the first place. So please keep that in mind. And Caroline Lovett, the press secretary for the White House, makes it very clear here.
With all of that, rest assured this is an all-hands-on-deck effort from the entire administration to get to the bottom of this and to ensure that the ripping off of taxpayers in the state of Minnesota, and it won't just be Minnesota, it'll be any state across this country where fraud has taken place, and we are protecting law-abiding, tax-paying American citizens.
And that concludes this video for today. Don't forget to subscribe for additional updates to this topic and other topics to come.